I'm just going to give it to you very quickly here, where it says they were not ashamed. It's actually H954, the word in Hebrew bush, and the KJV translation here on the bottom, it says confounded or confusion. So they were not ashamed means they were not confounded. They were not in confusion. Everything was complete. And that's why I've written down here coherent completeness. What they understood was the plan of God at their level. I'm talking about Adam and Eve now. They didn't understand all the details by a long shot, but what they did understand made sense. It was complete. There was no contradiction here. And this is the way Christ ends this Sermon on the Mount, by saying that he taught doctrine and that this doctrine agreed. There was one doctrine. It was unified. There was coherent completeness. And that's why these people were astonished, because unfortunately, that's totally the opposite about religion today. Religion is in confusion. Religion is teaching opposite ideas here. And they're arguing about all of these ideas. The fruit is right out there that there's a problem. And we need to come back and find and seek and knock for this doctrine that is unified, this teaching of the Bible. And it's not just the Sermon on the Mount, it's from Genesis to Revelation. It's all God's word, and it's got to have within it this coherent completeness. And that's what we're looking for. And that's what Christ taught, both in Genesis chapters 1 and 2, and here in the Sermon on the Mount. And I think it's a fitting end to the sermon that he comes back to the fact that it's coherent completeness.
Yes, Sam, I agree with you today that when the differences, especially with today's, gospel, is Jesus spoke in that authority and knew exactly and clearly what God said about all the things he said, because he was speaking as the divine one. But now we have these panels I see quite often of ministers discussing different topics and giving what they think the scriptures are saying, interpretations, which reminds me kind of what the scribes were doing. The rabbis, they were just repeating what others said, but Jesus was very clear in what he was saying. And when you're clear and have authority and can show these scriptures to be true, you get more respect. And that's why the people were astonished. And that's where we need to go back to.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we're a long ways from finishing the book of Matthew, but we have covered a very important section here on the Sermon on the Mount, and it's fittingly concluded by this section here about coherent completeness. So thanks for joining us here. And thank you for your participation, Katrina. And we will see you next Bible study as we delve into chapter 8.
Bye.
Uncover the mystery of Adam and Eve's nakedness. Unravel the ambiguous connection between the Hebrew term for naked and the serpent's subtlety. Join us for this free mini-course and gain a profound new perspective on biblical Hebrew. TheExplanation.com/naked